Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief, where we invest in fire product precision on a daily basis. Well, we had the big Fed meeting yesterday. It was announced there at 1 p.m. Central Time here in Texas, and everything. The Federal Reserve, stood the course, stood their ground. So really no changes, which is what helped the market continue higher yesterday. And then, of course, the futures today, market's trucking higher as well. So that's really what we needed for the market to kind of stop the selling we had seen from a few days ago, and now kind of put a bottom in and then now resume the march higher. I don't think the same things that are kind of spooking the market are still there. So you think of inflation, you think of the tax reform that's coming, some of the debt limit arguments that are going to take the news cycle here for a little bit until the debt ceiling eventually gets raised, because it will, because that's what we do in this country. We argue about it, then we raise it, and we say we'll never do it again, and then we put it on the agenda for doing it again because we end up spending a lot of money. So there's still things that kind of concern the market out there. Those didn't go away, but at least the one piece everybody was worried about this week in the Federal Reserve saying the right thing. Chairman Powell's the adult at the wheel, so no real issues there. But today we're going to talk about how to invest in this U.S. financial sector. We had the big meltdown from Evergrande this weekend that caused a big sell-off in the markets. People were saying, is this the worldwide Lehman moment, which is a reference to 2007, 2009, the global financial crisis, when Lehman Brothers went under after being in business for 100 years, which then once they fell, they were allowed to fail, and everybody else was kind of propped up by the government. So it's kind of interesting. If you like financial stuff, you should definitely go back and read how all of that went down and Lehman got hung out to dry. It's I wouldn't say funny, because it's not funny in that comedian funny, but it is ironic how all of it really, to me, it could have been any of the big names, and they were going to let one fail and then save the rest. So it's kind of interesting. For our individual investments that we'll look at, though, is JP Morgan and Bank of America. On the banking side, you get over on the investment side, and then I think Blackstone and BlackRock are definitely the place to have your money. All right, with that, and then I have some longs and shorts, mostly longs today. We'll get to that here in a second before the market opens. If you're catching us on replay, make sure you hit the subscribe and notifications bell. If you want to catch us live, it's $25 to come on in the room. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back. Here's our lineup card for today, Thursday, September 23rd. Standard disclaimer applies. You have to do your own due diligence before acting upon anything in this financial education presentation. Full disclaimer information is available at ototnow.com. Mission objectives: protect our money, grow our money, and live off our money. Really looking to grow our money with good, stable, investing in the banks here in the United States. Two that we'll take a look at are JP Morgan and Bank of America. You see their tickers down here. We'll also look at BlackRock and Blackstone, which are, again, a little different flavors of investments for the U.S. system. And I like those better. For question of the day, still says, what does Toast do? No, that was yesterday. If you watch the IPO, again, they were going to price it in the mid 30s. It's supposed to open at 40. It opened at 65 and then sold off from there. So kind of the standard -1. So hopefully you stayed clear of that, because if you didn't, you're down money. The question of the day is, what is the beneficiary? What does beneficiary mean? Or basically, I'll just put beneficiary on an account. So there's some confusion on this, but a beneficiary bypasses the will. So things don't go into probate, and it goes right on. So anyhow, that's what we'll talk about there. Let's go over to look at the headlines real quick on CNBC, which is right here, and refresh those. So everything's up a little bit, up to 0.5%. In the Dow, there you go. You see the Toast CEO making some comments there. Let's look at Europe is mixed. Asia also mixed. Bonds creeping up a little bit. Yep. Oil creeping up slightly. Gold and silver selling off, and then crypto has been up nicely the past couple of days. Still pretty good entry point if you believe the long-term thesis. All right, not going to look at headlines today. We're going to go right over to TD Ameritrade. and get set up for the market open. You see the 4 screens. I'll be right back with you in a minute. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time On Target play of the day, where we try to get a quick day trade at the market open. Here we have 10 seconds to the market open on Thursday, September 23rd. 4 screens in front of you here on the TD Ameritrade ThinkPipes platform. You have S&P off the left. That's a 1-minute chart. You can see some positivity going into the bell. There's the morning bell. We have 2 longs. The first is Powell, which is an ammo company, and they got some big contracts, so they're gapping up almost at 5%. Next one is Best. They're a company that's backed by Alibaba. That was the headline, so I kind of like that as my favorite long here. A little bit tough to trade down at the pennies point, but we'll watch it. And then, of course, our short is SCS, which had negative earnings. That did not meet their, even though they have earnings, they're profitable, because you can see from that 21, they missed their projection there. So they should be selling off in the open, already down 7%. Okay. We'll do a 3-cent stop here in Best. And we're kind of looking at this as well. Really should do a 2-cent stop over here, but don't really care for that entry. 1260, nope. Again, primarily looking at the 2 longs right now. Use a 10-cent stop in Powell is what we'll do. We'll let it set the bottom of the day. We'll take it, and then as it flips back long here is when we want to take it. Okay, I'm looking at 625 and then entering at 635 with a 10-cent stop. There's your 635 entry point. I saw it touch it, so we take it there. We set the bottom down here at, we can actually go an 8-cent stop, 627. That's going to help our math a little bit. So it's covering the low of the day. That's 627. Let me zoom in. So an 8-cent stop, 635, so that puts it at 643. Our next point, 8 cents on top of that is 651. Right here, and that allows us, the reason I shortened that is to get out by 659, which is where it was this morning, and it's not going to matter because it busted out already out the bottom. Now it'll make me look silly if it holds 625, but I said 627 and it hit it, so we are out. We're going to leave it up there just to see the differences. If you did pad it by a couple cents, see if it makes any difference or not here. So we'll leave it up for a second. All right. So Best, of course, would take off, since that's one we didn't take. But, the setup is going to be a tough entry with a 2-cent stop. So it does look like it would have made it had we entered it, which we did not. And then the other one over here, SCS. Oof, tough entry here. Again, you're not getting much to look at. Yeah, if you went 1275 to cover, you'd have to enter. It'd have to have a 15-cent stop, which takes it down almost 10% on the day. I just don't think you're going to get that. All right, so far this is held. We'll just kind of watch that out of GWES, but the numbers I gave you busted. All right, let's look at what is going up and down for the day. The longs, TQLB, OKYC, YSF are both specs. Same with Cybin. CRM is Salesforce.com, bouncing nicely. Palantir up a couple of percent. Mind Medicine, it's a spec name I like, a couple of percent. DD's playing this morning. MJ, some of these left out themes of Chinese tech and marijuana are also bouncing up this morning. CRISPR Therapeutics, I do like, that's another name, highly speculative, up 8% there as well. All right, let's take a look to the downside. CBD company that's smaller, Gold, KWeb, which is your Chinese tech. So Alibaba up, KWeb down, or no, it was Didi that was up because KWeb and Baba are down right here. Silver's down, Microsoft down, and then a few other names. But overall, just a handful of names in the red. Almost everything else is in the green for the day. All right, check back to the trade. Again, we're not in anymore, but it looks like it would have held the 625 for right now. All right, let's come back to the main screen here, and we'll talk about, let's look at the charts real quick for JP Morgan. And I want to show you the difference between JP Morgan, which I think was already up there. So you have the run up, you have the election back here, and kind of the run up, and it's really kind of flatlined into that 150 to 160 area, waiting for a breakout higher. When you look at the valuation, the valuations are dirt cheap. A couple percent dividend. In the currently at a 10 PE, pretty attractive from a long-term investment standpoint. Now you have Bank of America, kind of the same thing, ran up a little bit further, but now it's range bound between 38 and 42. Again, super cheap, pays a couple percent on the dividend, and I would call these stable investments. You're not going to make probably your 20 to 50% that you're looking for out of your tech names by investing in these. But if you take it over to the investment side, you do have Blackstone, which is the largest private equity player in the world. I do offer several investments through them. They ran basically up from 62 to 135. So that's kind of a double plus, right? Performance in the last year, 145%. So straight up, still fairly, actually lower valuation than you would expect, out of a tech firm or so. And you get a couple of percent dividends, technically a distribution for these guys. So really the Blackstone stock has been amazing, and there's no reason to not be in it here. You got a little bit of a sell-off. And the last one is BlackRock, which is BLK, which is a little different. They offer all the iShares ETFs. Larry Fink is the CEO, but the reason to invest in them lately has been, or what drove the move back from around 700 up to 950, is they were the ones that are doing all the bond buying. Well, they'll be the ones that also is doing the bond selling once we get into the taper and the bond purchasing tapers off, and we have to turn around and sell all these back onto the open market. Again, BlackRock is the ones who have the big contract for doing so. So it makes sense that you would put money behind them. I think this is all just profit taking right here because so many people were in the 300 to 400 range. You just see that every now and then. It's like, okay, needs to come in and then go back higher. But definitely when you look at BX and BLK, the money's already been made. The large portion of the money's been made. You look at JP Morgan or Bank of America, and pretty much nobody's made any money for 6 months. So they're poised to move higher. All right, last thing we'll talk about is the beneficiary. There's some confusion on this, and there are scenarios. You can always come up with a scenario where something happens that you didn't mean. So say you have no will and no beneficiary set up on any of your brokerage accounts, and something happens to you. Well, at that point, if you don't have any existing documentation in place, everything goes into probate, and then it follows the laws of the state that you are in. Now, say you have a will in place but no beneficiaries, then simply everything goes into probate. And disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I'm explaining to you from the advisor perspective. So consult a lawyer for official details on your exact situation. But if you have a will in place and no beneficiaries, then everything goes into probate and basically gets distributed per the person's desires in the will. It's also backed up by the laws of the state. So in case there's any challenges or anything, but that's that process. Now, the benefit of having beneficiary in place is that the funds move within a few days. You produce a death certificate and the funds are retitled in the beneficiary's name. It does not involve probate. So money can move very quickly. So if you're in one of those situations where your beneficiary could need the money before the 30 to 45 days that it's going to take the probate process, you definitely want some funds going to them through the beneficiary process. So when you think retirement accounts, those have some special rules, but they do flow to beneficiaries, and that's generally fairly quick. But then again, that's retirement money. So if something happens to you and you pass that down to, so now it's an inherited IRA for somebody. It follows different rules. They can get access to it, but basically they have that 10-year window to take out the money. So they either need to get really smart on what to do, or they need to hire somebody to walk them through it, because it can be a little bit confusing. It's not extremely complex, but a little bit confusing on how money passes to you and then what you can do with that. A lot of folks, if the account's under 10,000, just simply kill it off so they don't have to worry about it, meaning they take the entire money, pay the taxes on it, and then that way you don't have to worry about it anymore. All right. You can have primary beneficiaries and contingent beneficiaries. So the scenario that, I have not actually had a client do this, but it's the scenario people talk about to watch out for when I go through my trainings for advisor stuff is, say somebody has 3 kids, they'll think, well, I'm going to make one of them primary and the other 2 will be contingent beneficiaries because the one child is, more financially savvy possibly than the others. Well, what you did there is you just left your entire inheritance to one of your children and disinherited the other 2. Now, if you have a big account that is the case, all of it goes to one child. And then when they pop the will open and see that that's not your intent, then it's upon family common sense and all that to be able to make it right. But legally, that money now belongs to that oldest child. Okay. So you kind of want to think about what you're doing. The primary contingencies, normally I set it up to where if it's an adult who has children, you set up and they're still married. You set up your primary beneficiary as your spouse, and then your contingent beneficiaries are your children, which is that, date night car accident scenario where something happens to both adults, but all the kids are okay. Right. So anyhow, make sure you know what you're doing and think it a little bit through when you set up your beneficiaries, so you don't do something that's unintended. All right, that's all I've got for you today. We will catch you back tomorrow. Again, market's still hanging out, over % in the green, so it looks like another green day. We'll see you guys in the morning. Bye.